UNICEF reaches agreement with Israel to restore water in Gaza. EU and Ukraine sign security pact to continue aid. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Otto Othman and this is World Today. Israel stormed a neighborhood in Gaza City, ordering Palestinians to move south as tanks rolled in, bombing the southern city of Rafah. Residents of the Shajaya neighborhood in Gaza City said they were surprised by the sound of tanks approaching and firing, with drones also attacking after overnight bombing of the city, which Israel had combed early in the war. The Palestinian Civil Emergency Service said the Israeli military strikes had killed at least 7 people in the Shajaya so far, adding that more casualties are feared to be under the rubble where rescue teams cannot reach. Israel said it had already issued a warning and ordered the residents to get out of the area prior to the operation. However, residents said the tanks had moved in before the evacuation order was issued and that people from the eastern suburb were running westward under fire as Israel had blocked the road south. In Rafah, where tanks had advanced in several neighborhoods since 7th May, medics said 4 Palestinians were killed by tank shells that landed in the western area of the city, where the Israeli army deepened in incursions in recent days. The Israeli offensive has so far killed 37,765 people and has left the tiny, heavily built-up Gaza Strip in ruins. The United Nations Children's Fund has reached an agreement with Israel to restore power to a key desalination plant in southern Gaza, which could provide a much-needed water to 1 million displaced people. UNICEF said the deal was reached to re-establish the medium-voltage feeder power line for the southern Gaza desalination plant. The plant in Khan Yunis, once resupplied with electricity, should produce enough water to meet what humanitarian standards define as a minimum intake of 15 liters per day of drinking water per person for nearly 1 million displaced people in the southern Gaza. According to UNICEF, the plant should be able to produce 15,000 cubic meters or 15 million liters of water per day at full capacity. Water has become scarce for the Palestinian territory's 2.4 million residents since war broke out nearly 9 months ago. According to data cited by UN agencies, more than 2/3 of Gaza's sanitation and water facilities have been destroyed or damaged, and only an intermittent supply of bottled water has been allowed in since Israel imposed a punishing siege on the territory. Canada announced a new round of sanctions against Israeli settlers for violence against Palestinian civilians in the West Bank. Now, this comes just 1 month after the first ever sanctions by Canada against settlers were rolled out in lockstep with Britain, France, the European Union and the United States. This round, Ottawa listed 7 individuals and 5 organizations for their role in facilitating, supporting or financially contributing to acts of violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinian civilians and their property. Ottawa said attacks by settlers have resulted in the deaths of Palestinians and damage to property and farmlands, as well as the forced displacement of Palestinian communities. The sanctions include a ban on transactions with the settlers or their organizations and on their entry into Canada. Israel has occupied the West Bank, home to 3 million Palestinians since 1967, and around 490,000 Israeli settlers live there in communities considered illegal under international law. The European Union and Ukraine signed a security agreement during a European Council summit in Brussels. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky attended the summit and signed the security pact in a ceremony with European Council President Charles Michel and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. According to the document, the EU and its member states have so far collectively provided nearly 108 billion euros in assistance to Ukraine. The document noted that the EU is determined to continue providing Ukraine and its people with all the necessary political, financial, economic, humanitarian, military, and diplomatic support for as long as it takes and as intensely as needed. The EU also agreed to use the extraordinary revenue stemming from the frozen Russia assets to support Ukraine. The agreement also emphasized that Ukraine should continue its reforms in line with its path towards the EU and strengthen transparency and accountability measures concerning the assistance received. Zelensky noted that the signing of the pact between Ukraine and the EU is a historic choice for Europe. He hoped that the EU can provide ammunition and long-range anti-aircraft weapons to Ukraine as soon as possible and strengthen sanctions against Russia. EU leaders struck a summit deal to return Ursula von der Leyen as head of the powerful European Commission, while tapping Estonia's Prime Minister Kaja Kallas as the bloc's top diplomat. The accord carves up the EU's top institutional jobs for the 5 years to come, with former Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa to head the European Council, bringing together member states. All three nominees hail from the centrist alliance that dominates the EU Parliament following elections this month, despite gains by the far right, including Italy's Giorgia Meloni. While Costa will automatically succeed Council President Charles Michel this year, both von der Leyen and Kallas need to lock in majority support in the European Parliament, starting with a July vote on the Commission chief that is predicted to be tight. Tested during his first term by multiple crises from the COVID pandemic to the Ukraine war, former German Defense Minister von der Leyen is confirmed faces a no less daunting set of challenges, from the Russian threat to climate change and a rising China.
I would plain and simply like to express my gratitude to the leaders who endorsed my nomination for a second mandate as President of the European Commission. For me, this means that I now will seek confirmation from the European Parliament on my appointment after presenting my political guidelines for the next 5 years. So there's another step to do on the way forward. Thank you.
Press conference following the European.
Mexican President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum named another 4 members of her future cabinet, including a pair of former Mexico City officials, to be her ministers for energy and transportation as she prepares to take office in October. The incoming leader tapped Luz Elena Gonzalez as energy minister, who will also serve as chair of the board of directors for state-owned oil company Pemex, as well as part of the board of National Electricity Utility CFE. Gonzalez was previously in charge of finance and administration duties for the capital during Sheinbaum's tenure as mayor. In Mexico, it is common for energy ministers to lack high-level experience in the sector prior to taking on the job as minister.
Jesús Antonio Esteban Medina, él será el secretario de Infraestructura, Comunicaciones y Transportes. Es ingeniero civil y maestro en estructuras por la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México.
Sheinbaum also named Raquel Buenrostro to serve as the head of the Federal Controller's Office. Buenrostro currently serves as Economy Minister in the cabinet of outgoing President Andres Manuel López Obrador. Last week, Sheinbaum named the first 6 picks for her cabinet, including former Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard as Economy Minister. Coming up, Bolivia arrests 17 in relation to failed coup. Stay with us. Mongolians headed to the polls in parliamentary elections, with the ruling party widely expected to win despite deepening public anger over corruption and the state of the economy. Voters across the vast, sparsely populated nation of 3.4 million are exercising their democratic rights to elect 126 members of the state Great Khural in a country surrounded by authoritarian powers, China and Russia. Polls opened at 7 a.m. local time, and they are scheduled to close at 10 p.m. Analysts expect the ruling Mongolian People's Party, led by Prime Minister Lufsalam Srein Oyen Erdene, to retain the majority it has enjoyed since 2016 and govern the resource-rich country for another 4 years. However, there is deep public frustration over endemic corruption, as well as the high cost of living and lack of opportunities for young people who make up almost two-thirds of the population. There is also a widespread view that the proceeds of a decade-long boom in coal mining that fueled double-digit growth are being hoarded by a wealthy elite. Bolivian authorities paraded handcuffed detainees in front of the media, announcing 17 arrests after a botched coup d'etat that has deepened political turmoil in a country mired in severe economic crisis. Tensions have been rising in recent weeks in the Andean nation over surging prices, shortages of dollars and fuel, and a feud between President Luis Arce and the powerful former President Evo Morales ahead of 2025 elections. Riot police kept close watch over government buildings a day after Army Chief Juan Jose Zuniga deployed troops and tanks to the heart of the capital, La Paz, where they tried to break down the door of the presidential palace. Interior Minister Eduardo del Castillo announced a total of 17 arrests, including active and retired military personnel and civilians in connection to the attempted coup. Other suspects are still being sought.
Juan José Zúñiga no ha actuado solo. Arnés no ha actuado solo y el día de hoy lo hemos demostrado con la aprehensión de 17 personas. Evidentemente, hay muchas más personas que han participado en el golpe de Estado fallido ocurrido.
Bolivia, which has a long history of military coups, has in recent weeks been rocked by an economic crisis due to a drop in gas production, its main source of foreign currency until 2023. Kenyan police fired tear gas at small groups of remaining protesters in Nairobi as crowds took to the streets again nationwide, even after the president bowed to pressure to withdraw a tax hike bill. Protesters ran from the tear gas in the Kenyan capital and held their hands above their heads. Crowds called for President William Ruto to go further and step down in the capital Mombasa, Kisumu, and other centers. The turnout was well down from the heights of the mass rallies sparked by the tax measures over the past week. Ruto withdrew the legislation including new taxes and hikes on Wednesday, a day after at least 23 people were killed in clashes at protests sparked by his plans, and Parliament was quickly stormed and set alight. Junior hospital doctors in England began a 5-day strike a week before a general election in which the state of the publicly funded National Health Service is a major issue. The strike follows nearly a dozen similar protests by doctors below specialist or consultant level over the last 18 months. The National Health Service is grappling with a massive backlog caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. A recent survey suggested that less than a quarter of Britons were satisfied with the agency, an unprecedented level. Apart from delays to operations and starting cancer treatment, the public also face long waits to see a doctor at their local surgery. The doctors have been asking for 35% pay restoration as a starting position amid a cost of living crisis. They said they will call off the strike if Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak comes to the table with a credible commitment to increase their pay. Decades-high inflation last year saw workers from sectors across the economy, from teachers to train drivers, stage walkouts. The government, quasi-public agencies and private sector firms have resolved many of other pay disputes. However, some remain outstanding, such as the junior doctors. Now, at least 7 people were killed and 5 others injured when a passenger train and bus collided at a railway crossing in southern Slovakia. The crash occurred just after 5 p.m. local time near the southwestern town of Novozemsky, 110 kilometers east of the capital, Bratislava. Local media published video footage of passenger carrying luggage alongside a train partially in flames as thick grey smoke rose to the sky. Railway spokeswoman Vladimira Vahilova said the Aerocity train was traveling from Prague to Budapest when the collision occurred. She added that the crash happened at a railway crossing that was protected by barriers and was equipped with light signals. Updating a previous toll of 6 dead, the Slovak Rescue Service said at least 7 people suffered injuries incompatible with life. Petra Klimosova, a spokeswoman of the rescue services, said the injured required immediate medical assistance. They include the driver of the train that suffered burns because the locomotive caught on fire. Interior Minister Matusotaj Estok said it was not clear whether the cause of the crash was a technical or human failure. A fire broke out at Denmark's tax ministry in central Copenhagen, sending a plume of thick smoke into the air. Now, the city's fire department said no one was injured in the incident and the fire has largely been extinguished. Copenhagen Fire Department Incident Manager Tim Ole Simonsen said the situation was under control, with the fire no longer spreading to other areas. Simonsen also said it was not immediately clear what caused the fire, adding that the police would conduct an investigation into the matter. The blaze comes after Copenhagen's old stock exchange, a 10-minute walk from the tax ministry, was toppled by fire in April. According to the police, the tax ministry's office complex was evacuated along with other nearby buildings. Tax Minister Jeppe Bruce said it was in a meeting when the fire broke out and that the emergency services responded promptly to the incident. He said he went outside of the meeting room as soon as the alarm went off and he could immediately smell the smoke from the fire. He said that he managed to get out of the building safely, adding that the evacuation process was calm. Next, Panama stunned USA in a shocking 2-1 victory. Stay with us. Now, kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, Panama left the USA's hopes of qualifying for the Copa America knockout rounds hanging by a thread on Thursday after scoring a shocking 2-1 victory over the host nation. Now, stormy Group C battle in Atlanta saw both sides finish with 10 men as Panama came from behind to snatch a victory which reignites their Copa campaign after an opening loss to Uruguay. The game turned out on a moment of madness in the 18th minute when U.S. winger Timothy Weah went off for striking Panama defender Roderick Miller in the face in an off-the-ball incident spotted by VAR. Although Folarin Balogun fired the U.S. into the lead with a screamer from the edge of the area after 22 minutes, Panama got back on level terms only minutes later after Cesar Blacksman's strike. As the game wore on, however, Panama's one-man advantage began to take its toll on the wary U.S. side. With 7 minutes remaining, Jose Fajardo swept in an emphatic finish from Abdel Ayarza's slow cross to put Panama 2-1 ahead. A fractious finale saw Adalberto Carrasquilla sent off after a cynical hack on U.S. captain Christian Pulisic in the dying minutes as Panama hung on for the win. Lionel Messi may sit out Argentina's next Copa America match against Peru on Saturday to rest a sore thigh, with his team already qualified for the next round after 2 wins. Messi, who turned 37 this week and has been suffering muscle niggles, required brief medical treatment on his thigh during Argentina's 1-0 victory over Chile at the U.S.-hosted tournament. However, he managed to play the entire game, nearly scoring from a long range, and played an instrumental role in Argentina's offensive play style. With a 2-0 win over Canada also under their belt, world champions and tournament favorites Argentina are looking comfortable in the early stages of the Copa America, even if not at their scintillating best. They top Group A with 6 points, ahead of Canada with 3. Messi captained Argentina to triumph at the last Copa America in 2021 and at the Qatar World Cup in 2022. On to tennis. Taylor Fritz continued his quest for an Eastbourne hat-trick Thursday at the Rothsay International, where the top seed ousted next-gen ATP Shang Junzhen 7-6, 7-6 to reach the semi-finals. Now, a two-time champion at the Grass ATP 250, Fritz dropped just 4 points on serve and saved all 4 break points he faced to advance after 1 hour, 46 minutes. Into his 4th semi-final of the season, Fritz is aiming to be the tournament's first 3-time champion. The world number 13 in the PIF ATP rankings is yet to be broken this week. The 26-year-old will face Alexander Vucic in the semi-finals after the Aussies' 6-3, 3-6, 7-6 win against Yoshihito Nishioka. Fritz holds a 1-love Lexus ATP head-to-head record against Vucic, who the 7-time tour-level titleist defeated in the Atlanta final last year. A lucky loser, Vucic will be competing in his first ATP Tour semi-final since the Atlanta final run. He has matched his personal best from last season with 11 tour-level wins this year. Meanwhile, British wildcard Billy Harris, fresh off his run to his first ATP Tour quarter-final at the Queen's Club, has gone one better in Eastbourne by reaching the semis. The 29-year-old improved to 3-3 against top 50 opponents with a 6-7, 7-6, 6-2 victory against Flavio Cobolli. Harris claimed the only 2 breaks of the match in the final set and saved all 3 breaks points against him. He will meet Max Purcell on Friday after the Aussies' 6-3, 7-6 quarter-final victory against Miomir Kecmanovic. In women's French Open finalist Jasmine Paolini set up a semi-final against last year's beaten finalist Daria Kasatkina on Thursday, on a day to forget for Britain's women's players. Italian third seed Paolini broke British number 1 Katie Bolter twice as she dominated the first set, but the second set was more even as the players swapped breaks. However, Paolini, who lost to Iga Swiatek at Roland Garros earlier this month, stepped up a gear in the tie-break, winning 7 straight points to seal a 6-1, 7-6 victory. Bolter, ranked 32nd in the world, came to Eastbourne in good form after retaining her Nottingham Open crown earlier this month. Russia's Kasatkina eased through 6-2, 6-2 against Britain's former US Open champion Emma Raducanu, who celebrated her first win over a top 10 player on Wednesday, ousting second seed Jessica Pegula. The 6th seed broke Raducanu twice in the first set to take a firm grip. Both players struggled on serve in the second set with a total of 6 breaks, but the Russian held to complete the win when Raducanu went long with a forehand.
6-2, 6-2.
On to motorsports. Frenchman Pierre Gasly has extended his contract with Alpine. The Formula One outfit announced on Thursday without mentioning the length of his new deal. Gasly, 28, joined Alpine last season from Scuderia Alfa on the deal until 2025. His best performance with Alpine was a third-placed finish in the Dutch Grand Prix, but sits 15th in the Drivers' Championship this season. Alpine added they will announce Gasly's teammate for 2025 in due course, with Esteban Ocon leaving. Relations between the two have been far from harmonious, as they have clashed in both the Monaco and Canada races. One driver waiting in the wings to step in next season is their reserve driver, Jack Doohan, son of 5-time motorcycling world champion Mick Doohan. Bruno Famin's Alpine team are 7th in this season's Constructors' Championship, 20 points behind Honda in 6th after 10 of the season's 24 races. The world's first hydrogen race series, Extreme H, unveiled its new car on Thursday with a fresh focus on green technology and a shift away from racing in remote locations to raise awareness of climate change. Now, Extreme E, its predecessor, had aimed to promote sustainability and electric vehicles by racing SUVs in harsh areas already hit by environmental damage in a docu-sport concept. Founder Alejandro Agag said the switch to green hydrogen produced by splitting water through electrolysis using renewable energy meant a new mission. The 10-round 2025 calendar will have an opener in Saudi Arabia in April, with races in Britain, Germany, Italy before a finale in the United States. Formula One champions Jenson Button, Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton are among the existing team owners, with 7 times NASCAR Cup champion Jimmy Johnson also a competitor. Extreme E launched in 2021 with identical SUVs and male and female drivers in every lineup had ventured as far as Senegal, Greenland, Chile, and Uruguay, but the St. Helena's future is now uncertain. Red Bull will join as a sponsor with Saudi investment fund PIF, the series' principal partner. Hyundai driver Ott Tanak won the opening special stage of Rally Poland on Thursday ahead of his Belgian teammate Thierry Neuville, the World Championship leader. Now, at the end of the 2.5-kilometer stage run in Mikołajów, the 2019 World Champion edged Neuville by 1 second, while Britain's Elfyn Evans Toyota took third place at 1.3 seconds. Japanese driver Takamoto Katsuta Toyota was fourth, ahead of third Hyundai driver by the Norwegian Andreas Mikkelsen and Frenchman Adrien Formau, M Sport Ford. Two-time reigning world champion Kele Rovanperä Toyota conceded 2.1 seconds and is seventh. The Finn was not scheduled to drive in Poland, but had to replace Sébastien Ogier at short notice after an accident during a reconnaissance run on Tuesday. The 8-time world champion and his co-driver, Vincent Landais, who was involved in a head-on collision, were uninjured, as were the 2 occupants of the other vehicle involved. However, they had to withdraw from the Polish event. And that wraps up our bulletin this afternoon. In our top story today, UNICEF reaches agreement with Israel to restore water in Gaza. Now, do join us this evening on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM for more, or you can stream us live online on RTM Click's website or mobile app. Till then, I'm Otto Othman. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching.